What's up YouTube, Capital G here, giving you guys a deck profile of the Sacred Beast deck that I had on my channel yesterday doing some work. And this is super cool because I never honestly thought that I would see a time where there would be a viable version of this deck. And it's simply because the summoning conditions of the Sacred Beast are just so impossibly difficult. I mean, giving up 3 cards to summon 1 is already something that's pretty difficult. But when you have to give up 3 continuous spells or 3 fiend monsters specifically, when it has to be 3 continuous traps, like who has time for that? And I know someone will probably point out, like, yes, there was a time where Crystal Beast players tried to play, you know, copies of Hammond, and it's not like it was ever wildly successful because Crystal Beasts were never wildly successful. So it was kind of gimmicky and it really didn't work out all that well. But with a couple of new support cards, there is actually a way to make these things fucking work, and they actually work quite well. And really, it's because the new support cards, the Dark Summoning Beast and the field spell Fallen Paradise, it does 3 things that makes the deck so much better. Number 1, you actually get rewarded for summoning these things. It's like having them on the field. You don't just get, you know, a bunch of big vanilla bodies. Or these cards are actually pretty good. They've never been bad cards. They've just been impossible to summon. Like, you get rewarded for having them on the field when you have your field spell, drawing 2 cards every single turn. Like, what deck in the game wouldn't like that? Number 2, you actually get protection for your Sacred Beast, which is really cool because although these things are really difficult to kind of run over in battle, Hammond and Raviel both have 4,000 attack. Not a lot of decks in the meta that can just easily run over 4,000 attack monsters consistently. This card turns these guys into Magispectors, meaning no Regeki, you cannot target them, and it just makes them so much more of a pain in the ass to try and deal with. And then the third is the most noteworthy, in my opinion, is the fact that they're so much fucking easier to get on the field. Dark Summoning Beast is a card that all you have to do is tribute it, and bam, you instantly get to summon these guys, ignoring their summoning conditions, and you don't even have to draw them. You can actually summon them straight from the deck. Now, this guy is a level 5, which is, it's kind of annoying. If he was level 4, like, man, the deck might actually be like, it might even be like a competitive level tier. We might have to put it on like tier 2 or something like that, but it is a card that you can actually get on the field fairly easy. The reason that you run cards like Stygian Street Patrol is so that you can just banish it from the graveyard. You can special summon this card straight from your hand, and then you can launch it and you can just get whatever Sacred Beast card that you actually want. And there's so many ways of getting Street Patrol directly into the graveyard. You have Armageddon Knight, you have cards like Dark Grepher that can get into the graveyard. Summoner Monk is ran in this deck because it gets both of those cards. Foolish Burial is another good card. And if it is actually like a Stygian Street Patrol is like stuck in your hand and you don't have the Grepher, or you don't have a Twin Twister to get it out of your hand, you could just Allure of Darkness it away. I think Allure of Darkness works really well in this deck because if you notice, outside of you know, like Uriah and Hammond, pretty much the entire deck is actually dark. Supply Squad is pretty good in here because when you kind of summon like your Grepher or your Armageddon Knight, if you're not going for a rank 4 play because you just don't have one that turn, maybe you didn't summon them off like Monk, they kind of serve their purpose when they get like this Street Patrol in the graveyard, or if you happen to dump Dark Summoning Beast in the graveyard. So what this card allows you to do is it basically allows you to take those monsters, you know, get your card in the graveyard, and then if your opponent wants to run them over, if your opponent wants to kill them, your opponent is basically giving you free cards. So it turns your deck into a deck that can grind a little harder, a little bit better. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be looking at my trap lineup and think, why on earth are you running Phoenix Chain in 2016, Cap? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You should probably just run like a Solemn card, run Strike, run Warding. You could actually even run Scolding in this deck because you don't really run that many trap cards. The reason that I am running Phoenix Chain in this build and why Phoenix Chain is actually pretty decent is because of Uriah. And I'll also explain why you're only running 1 copy of Uriah when you run 2 of the other ones. Uriah is actually the worst of the 3 Sacred Beasts. I mean, it has the potential of being incredible because it can pop back row cards that are set on the field. Your opponent cannot respond to the card that you target. Like if you have a Solemn Strike or something like that, or if your opponent has like a Solemn Strike set and you activate Uriah's effect and you target that strike, they cannot actually chain it, or any other cards they can't activate like Metaphor's Counter or whatever. They actually cannot not because of Uriah's effect, but Uriah gets attack based on the amount of continuous trap cards in your graveyard. So basically you have to play a decent amount of continuous trap cards. And I thought, you know, things like Vanity's Emptiness is just a really good one. Oasis of the Dragon Souls is a good card because it can revive your level 4s for some pretty good rank 4 plays. And then, you know, Phoenix Chain is basically just to kind of stop things like Castell, to stop things that are going to threaten your Fallen Paradise, because your field spell is really what allows this deck to try and, you know, do what it wants to do. It allows you to get multiple cards each turn. It makes your Sacred Beasts really, really difficult. And the Sacred Beasts, they can kind of win games by themselves. Well, at least Haman and Raviel can. Haman is a 4,000 beater just like Raviel, and when it runs over a monster in battle, it does 1,000 damage. But more importantly, if you summon Haman in defense mode, your opponent can only attack this card, and again, it has 4,000 defense, so it's not exactly easy to get over. And if you can't target it, it makes it a lot harder. And then Raviel is a card that you can actually tribute a monster, and then, you know, this guy actually gains the attack of the tributed monster. The original attack, it would be so busted if it was just a current attack, because then think about it, right? You could have one of this in the graveyard, right? You could summon Phantom of Chaos. You could banish this guy, and then your like Raviel would gain 4,000 attack, which would just be, it would be an 8,000 attack monster, which could be basically an instant OTK. But unfortunately, it is the original attack, so it does kind of suck. So this is essentially the deck. There are probably ways to improve this or make it a little better. I'm pretty sure that you guys have some ideas. Just leave that in the comment section below. But for the most part, if you guys have any questions on how the deck works or how it operates, I'll be glad to answer any of that. And one last thing about Dark Summoning Beast. This card does not just summon the actual Sacred Beast. You actually can search one as well, which is another great reason why, you know, you run Allure of Darkness in this deck, is because hypothetically, if you have an Allure of Darkness and it is a dead card, you can actually banish your Dark Summoning Beast from the graveyard, and then you can search like a Raviel, and then you can just, you know, draw new cards in case you already have like a Raviel on the field or something like that. So just another little play that most people might not instantly identify, but it's a play that you're probably going to want to learn if you're playing this deck. And I don't know, I think the deck it's very fun, and it's good to see that after like 10 years there's actually a way to play these guys. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, smash that motherfucking thumbs up button and subscribe if you have not already.